The moment my ex-husband realized I'd been paying his salary for 3 years through my family's company, his face went completely white. But when he found out I'd just terminated the contracts that kept his entire department running, he started hyperventilating right there in the parking lot. I'll never forget the way his hands were shaking as he stammered, "Maya, please, I didn't know. I didn't know you had any business connections." The same man who left me alone at home, screaming in labor pains, was now begging me not to let him get laid off. But before I tell you how a woman abandoned during the most vulnerable moment of her life became her husband's worst nightmare, let me start from the beginning. Because this story will make your blood boil, and then it'll make you cheer. Trust me, the revenge is so sweet, I'm still savoring it 2 years later. Hey everyone, before we dive into this absolutely insane story, I need your help. This channel is brand new and I'm pouring my heart and soul into bringing you the most compelling real-life revenge stories out there. If you're already hooked by this preview, hitting that subscribe button, like button, and sharing this video would mean the absolute world to me. It's completely free and helps me keep creating these stories for you. Also, drop a comment below. I read every single one, and they help the algorithm show this to more people who need to hear these stories. Now, let's get into what happened. My name is Maya, and I'm 29 years old. I need to get this story off my chest because for 3 years, I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was this useless, financially dependent wife who couldn't do anything right. I work as a freelance graphic designer from home, or at least I thought I did. I've been designing logos, websites, marketing materials for small businesses since college. I'm actually pretty good at it, but my husband Marcus always made me feel like my work was just a cute little hobby. Marcus is 32, works in marketing for what seemed like a successful mid-sized company. We've been married for 3 years, and we live in my childhood home that I inherited when my grandmother passed away when I was 23. It's a beautiful old Victorian house with a wraparound porch, the kind of place I always dreamed of raising kids in. When I got pregnant, Marcus seemed excited at first. But as the months went on, something changed. He became controlling, critical, like nothing I did was ever good enough. Let me paint you a picture of what my daily life looked like at 8 months pregnant. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. to make Marcus breakfast, not just toast and coffee, mind you. We're talking eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, the whole spread. He'd eat while scrolling his phone, barely acknowledging me, then leave his dishes on the table for me to clean up. "Maya, make sure you follow up on those client payments today," he'd say, not looking up from his phone. "We need that money coming in consistently." Here's the thing, I was getting payments. I was landing clients. But somehow, we never seemed to have much money from my work. Marcus handled all our finances, claimed he was protecting me from the stress of managing money while pregnant. After he left for work, I'd spend hours on client projects, designing a logo for a local restaurant, creating marketing materials for a small law firm, building websites for startups. I loved my work, but I was always exhausted. Marcus expected the house to be spotless when he came home. One day, I was working on a particularly complex web design when I started having strong Braxton Hicks contractions. They were intense enough that I had to stop and breathe through them. When Marcus came home, he found me sitting on the couch, laptop closed, just trying to manage the discomfort. "What's this?" he asked, gesturing at the living room. There were a few baby items scattered around from where I'd been organizing the nursery earlier. "I wasn't feeling great today," I explained. "I had some strong contractions and dash." "Maya." His voice was sharp. "The baby isn't due for another month. You can't use pregnancy as an excuse to slack off." Slack off. That word hit me like a slap. I was 8 months pregnant, working full-time from home, managing all the household duties, and he called it slacking off. His mother Caroline made it worse. She'd come over unannounced, always with some criticism ready. "Maya, honey," she'd say in that fake sweet voice, when I was pregnant with Marcus, I worked a full-time job and kept a perfect house. "Maybe you need better time management." She'd run her finger along surfaces looking for dust, rearrange things I'd already organized, make comments about how I was preparing for motherhood. Marcus would just nod along, like she was making perfect sense. The incidents got worse as my due date approached. 2 weeks before my due date, I was having what felt like real contractions, not Braxton Hicks. They were coming every 10 minutes, lasting about a minute each. I was timing them on my phone, genuinely scared that this might be early labor. Marcus came home to find me sitting on the exercise ball the birthing class had recommended, breathing through another contraction. "What's wrong now?" he asked, not even setting down his briefcase. I think these might be real contractions," I managed between breaths. He rolled his eyes. "Maya, you do this every week. It's not real labor until your water breaks. Stop being so dramatic." But instead of being understanding, he got angry when he saw I hadn't started dinner. "So you've been sitting here all afternoon doing nothing? I work all day to provide for this family, and I come home to no food and you complaining." I tried to explain that the contractions were too strong to stand and cook, but he just shook his head. "Get up. We're ordering pizza, but you're cleaning this house first." I'm not living in chaos because you can't handle some pregnancy discomfort. I spent the next hour scrubbing the Kit Harris counters while having contractions every 8 minutes. The contractions eventually stopped, but the humiliation didn't. A week later, his parents came for dinner. I'd spent the entire day preparing Marcus's father's favorite meal, pot roast with all the sides. By the time they arrived, I was exhausted and my feet were so swollen I could barely fit in my shoes. During dinner, Caroline started her usual commentary. "Maya, this roast is a little dry. You might want to cook it longer next time. And the potatoes could use more seasoning." I nodded politely, too tired to defend myself. Then Marcus chimed in. "Yeah, Mom, I keep telling Maya she needs to follow recipes more carefully. She's always rushing through cooking." His father laughed. "Well, she's got time to learn. It's not like she's bringing in real money with that computer stuff." "Exactly," Marcus said, and this is the part that still makes my chest tight with anger. "Maya plays around on her laptop all day, making little pictures. It's more of a hobby than a job. I'm the one actually supporting this family." I sat there, 8.5 months pregnant, having spent 12 hours preparing their meal, being told my work was worthless. The three of them continued talking about me like I wasn't even there. "She's lucky she found a man willing to take care of her," Caroline added. "Not many men would be so generous." The breaking point happened 3 days before my due date. I was looking for some papers in Marcus's home office when I found something that made my blood run cold. In a folder marked Maya Freelance, I found client payment records that didn't match what Marcus had told me. A logo I thought I'd been paid $500 for? The payment stub showed $1,200. A website project Marcus said brought in $800? The invoice copy showed $2,500. When I confronted him about it, his reaction was terrifying. "How dare you go through my personal files," he yelled, snatching the folder away. "Those business documents are confidential." "Confidential?" "Marcus, these are payments for my work." "Your work." He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Maya, you think you could handle client relationships? Contracts? Payment processing? I do all the real work. You just make pretty pictures. I manage everything else, including making sure you actually get paid properly. But this is hundreds of dollars you never told me about." His face got red, the way it did when he was really angry. "I handle our finances. I invest that money wisely. You don't understand business, Maya. That's why you need me to manage these things." I stood there, huge belly, swollen feet, holding evidence that my husband had been lying to me about my own income, and he was telling me I was too incompetent to understand my own business. That night, Marcus announced his plans like they were already set in stone. "My dad's birthday is this weekend. We're all going up to the lake house. Mom already made the reservations." I stared at him. "Marcus, I'm due any day now. The doctor said first babies can come anytime in the last 2 weeks. First babies are usually late, Maya. Everyone knows that. Stop being such a worrier." "But what if something happens? What if I go into labor?" He was already walking away, dismissing me. "Then you call the doctor. Women have babies all the time. It's not complicated." That night, after he fell asleep, I did something I hadn't done in almost 6 years. I called my Aunt Rachel. Rachel was my grandmother's younger sister, and she'd tried to stay in touch after the funeral, but I'd been overwhelmed with grief and starting my marriage. We'd gradually lost contact, and I'd always felt guilty about it. Maya? Rachel's voice was surprised when she answered. Honey, is everything okay? It's after midnight. I broke down crying. I told her about Marcus, about the hidden payments, about how isolated I felt, about how he was planning to leave town right when I was supposed to give birth. Oh, sweetheart, she said, and I could hear concern in her voice. Where are you right now? Are you safe? I'm at home, but Rachel, I found these payment stubs. I think Marcus has been keeping money from my freelance work and not telling me. There was a long pause. Maya, she said carefully, honey, I think we need to talk. There are some things about your grandmother's estate that, well, I've been meaning to reach out, but I wasn't sure if you'd want to hear from me. My heart started racing. What do you mean? Your grandmother left some things unresolved when she passed. Business things. I've been handling them as best I can, but there are decisions that really should be yours to make. What kind of business things? Maya, can we meet somewhere this week? Somewhere private where we can really talk. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown while Marcus was at work. I had no idea that conversation would change everything. The next morning, Marcus was practically bouncing with excitement about his trip. We'll leave Friday morning, he said, packing his weekend bag. Dad's birthday dinner is Friday night, then we're doing the whole family reunion thing on Saturday. Should be back Sunday evening. Marcus, please. I'm scared to be alone this close to my due date. He stopped packing and looked at me with genuine annoyance. Maya, you're being ridiculous. Women have babies every day. It's not some rare medical emergency. Besides, first babies take forever. You'll probably go 2 weeks late. But what if I don't? Then you handle it like an adult. Call your doctor, go to the hospital. It's really not that complicated. His casual dismissal of my fears made something crack inside my chest. This was the man who was supposed to love and protect me, and he was talking about potentially missing the birth of our first child like it was no big deal. I can't believe you're willing to risk missing our baby being born. I'm not missing anything, he snapped. You're being dramatic, as usual. This is Dad's 60th birthday. It's important to the family. More important than me. More important than our baby. The message was crystal clear. Friday morning came faster than I wanted it to. I woke up around 5 a.m. with what felt like menstrual cramps, but stronger and more regular. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, just more Braxton Hicks, but deep down I knew something was different. Marcus was already up, loading his bag into the car. I could hear his parents honking outside. They were picking him up at 7 a.m. to drive to the lake house together. I got up slowly, trying to time the cramping. 6 minutes apart, lasting about 50 seconds each. I'd been to enough birthing classes to know what that might mean. Marcus, I called from the bedroom. I think this might be starting. What might be starting? He called back, distracted. The baby. I think I'm in early labor. I heard his footsteps on the stairs, but not the urgent, concerned footsteps you'd expect from a soon-to-be father. More like annoyed footsteps. Maya, we've been through this. It's not real labor. You get worked up about this every week. This is different, I insisted, gripping the door frame as another contraction hit. They're regular and they're getting stronger. He looked at his watch. Look, I don't have time for this drama right now. Mom and Dad are waiting, and we want to beat traffic. The honking outside got more insistent. I have to go, Marcus said, grabbing his jacket. Handle whatever this is appropriately. If it's actually real, which it's not, then call your doctor. I followed him downstairs, another contraction hitting as I reached the bottom step. I had to grip the banister and breathe through it. Marcus, please. Look at me. Does this look fake to you? He barely glanced over. You're fine. Stop being so dramatic. That's when it happened. I felt a sudden warm gush between my legs, and I looked down to see clear fluid pooling on our hardwood floor. Oh my God, I whispered. My water just broke. Marcus whirled around, saw the puddle, and his face went through a series of expressions: surprise, recognition, and then anger. Are you kidding me right now? He said. This is unbelievable timing. Marcus, this is it. This is really happening. The baby is coming. Instead of concern, instead of excitement, instead of jumping into action, Marcus looked at the puddle on the floor and said the words I'll never, ever forgive him for. Clean that up. I'm not missing Dad's birthday because your timing is terrible. I stared at him. What? You heard me. Clean it up. And call someone else to help you. I'm going to Dad's birthday, and that's final. The honking outside was constant now. I could hear his father yelling something about the schedule. Marcus, I'm in labor. We need to go to the hospital. No, we don't need to do anything. You need to figure this out like an adult. I'm going to this family gathering, and you're going to handle your medical situation on your own. He started walking toward the door, and I followed him, another contraction hitting me so hard I had to stop and lean against the wall. Please, I begged. Please don't leave me alone. He turned back to me, and his face was cold in a way I'd never seen before. Maya, I'm going. This is a once-in-a-lifetime family event. If you're really in labor, which, frankly, I still doubt, then call 911 or call your doctor. But I am not missing this trip because you decided to have drama today. He opened the front door, and I could see his parents in the car. Caroline rolled down her window. What's the holdup? She called. Maya's having some kind of pregnancy episode, Marcus called back. I'll be right there. He looked at me one more time. Figure it out, Maya. I'll see you Sunday night. And then he left. He actually left. He walked out the front door, got in the car with his parents, and drove away while I stood in our foyer in active labor with amniotic fluid running down my legs. I watched their car disappear down our street, and I felt something die inside my chest. Not just love. I think the love had been dying for months. But hope. Any hope that Marcus would ever put me first, would ever be the partner I needed him to be. Another contraction hit, stronger than before, and I knew I was completely alone. Thank God for Diane, our next-door neighbor. She's a retired nurse in her 60s, and she chose that exact moment to come outside to get her morning newspaper. Maya, she called when she saw me standing in the doorway. Honey, are you okay? I must have looked as terrified as I felt, because she dropped her newspaper and hurried over. I think I'm in labor, I managed. My water broke, and Marcus. Marcus left for a family trip. He what? The disbelief in her voice was exactly what I needed to hear. Someone else thought this was as insane as I did. He went to his father's birthday party. He said I was being dramatic. Diane's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, understanding, and then fierce protective anger. That absolute. She caught herself. Honey, we need to get you to the hospital right now. Can you walk to my car? The next several hours were a blur of contractions, hospital admission, and the overwhelming reality that I was about to become a mother with no partner by my side. Diane stayed with me through early labor, holding my hand and being the support person I should have had. Around hour 4, she gently suggested calling someone from my family. Do you have anyone else who should be here? She asked. Parents? Siblings? I thought about it. My parents lived across the country and would never make it in time. But there was Rachel. My aunt, I said between contractions. I could call my Aunt Rachel. Would you like me to call her? I nodded, giving Diane Rachel's number. About an hour later, Rachel burst through the labor room door looking fierce and determined. Maya, sweetheart, she said, immediately coming to my bedside. I'm so sorry. When Diane called and explained what happened, I couldn't believe it. Having Rachel there made all the difference. She held my hand, talked me through contractions, and gave me the emotional support I desperately needed. Where is that husband of yours? She asked during a quiet moment. Between contractions, I explained what had happened that morning. Rachel's face got darker with every word. He left you? He actually left you in labor. He said first babies are always late, I panted. He said I was being dramatic. Rachel was quiet for a moment, then squeezed my hand. Maya, after this baby is born and you've had some time to recover, we need to have a serious conversation. About a lot of things. What do you mean? Let's focus on bringing this baby into the world first, she said gently. But honey, there are some family matters we need to discuss. Things I should have talked to you about years ago. My daughter Emma was born at 11:47 p.m. on Friday night. Marcus had been at his father's birthday dinner, probably toasting and celebrating while I was pushing our child into the world with only Diane and Rachel by my side. Emma was perfect. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, with a head of dark hair and the most beautiful little face I'd ever seen. When they placed her on my chest, I forgot about everything else. The pain, the fear, even my anger at Marcus. Nothing existed except this tiny, perfect person. "She's gorgeous," Rachel whispered, tears in her eyes. "Maya, she's absolutely perfect." Diane was crying too. I've seen a lot of babies born in my nursing career, but this little one is special. It wasn't until the next morning, when I was settled in the recovery room with Emma sleeping peacefully in my arms, that the reality of the situation hit me. My husband had missed the birth of his first child. He didn't even know she existed yet. "Have you heard from Marcus at all?" Rachel asked gently. I checked my phone. No calls. No messages. Nothing. "I don't think he even knows she's been born," I said, surprised by how calm I felt about it. Rachel sat down in the chair next to my bed. "Maya, I know this isn't the ideal time, but I meant what I said yesterday. We need to talk about some family things. Things about your grandmother's estate that you should know about." "What kind of things?" "Important things. Things that could change your situation." She glanced meaningfully toward the door, as if Marcus might walk in at any moment. "Rachel, what are you talking about?" She pulled her chair closer. "Maya, when your grandmother died, she left you more than just the house. There were business assets, ongoing contracts, things that have been generating income. I've been managing them as trustee, but legally, it all belongs to you." I stared at her, trying to process this information while exhausted from labor. "What do you mean, business assets?" "Your grandmother had a design business, Maya. Harris Creative Solutions. It didn't die with her. It's been operating this whole time. And honey, it's been quite successful." My heart started racing. "But I would know if I owned a business." Rachel's expression was troubled. "That's what I've been trying to figure out for years. Maya, I've sent you letters, called the house, even stopped by once. But I was always told you weren't interested in being involved with the family business." "Told by who?" "By Marcus." The room seemed to tilt. "Marcus told you I wasn't interested?" "He said you found it all overwhelming and just wanted to focus on being a wife and mother. He said if there were any business decisions that needed to be made, I should work through him as your representative." I felt like I might throw up, and not from postpartum recovery. "Rachel, I never said any of that. I never even knew about any business." Rachel nodded grimly. "That's what I'm beginning to understand. If you're finding this story as fascinating as I hoped you would, please hit that like button, consider subscribing, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The comments you leave help me know I'm on the right track with this content, so please let me know what you're thinking so far. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next." Marcus finally showed up at the hospital Sunday afternoon. Not morning, not even noon, but 3 p.m., looking hungover and irritated. "Maya, this is unbelievable," were his first words when he walked into my room. "I come back from the lake house and Diane tells me you actually had the baby? Why didn't you call me?" I was holding Emma, and I looked up at my husband with different eyes. Eyes that had just learned he'd been intercepting communications about my inheritance for years. "I tried to tell you I was in labor," I said calmly. "You left anyway." "Maya, you complain about labor symptoms every week. How was I supposed to know this time was different? Maybe because I told you my water broke?" He waved his hand dismissively. "Water breaking doesn't always mean immediate labor. You could have waited." I wanted to scream at him, but something had changed in me during those 2 days in the hospital. I'd realized that I needed to be smart about this situation. "You're right," I said quietly. "I should have been clearer about the urgency." He looked surprised by my response. He'd probably expected a fight. "Well, anyway, I'm here now," he said, finally looking at Emma. "She's smaller than I expected." "She's perfect," I said firmly. "When can you come home?" "I've been living on takeout and the house is a mess." "Not, how was the birth?" "Not, are you okay?" "Not, I'm sorry I missed the most important moment of our lives." Just complaints about inconvenience. When we finally came home Monday evening, I started my careful investigation. That first night, while Marcus was in the shower, I called Rachel. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" she asked. "Physically, I'm okay. emotionally. Rachel, I need to understand exactly what Marcus has been doing. Can we meet this week? Of course. But Maya, I want you to be prepared. What I'm going to show you, it's going to be hard to hear. I need to know the truth. Then let's meet Wednesday afternoon. Can you get away? Wednesday afternoon, I told Marcus I was taking Emma to her first pediatrician appointment. Instead, I met Rachel at a quiet coffee shop across town. Rachel had brought a briefcase full of documents. She looked nervous as she opened it. Maya, before I show you these, I want you to know that I tried for years to reach you directly. I thought you were just not interested in the family business. Show me, I said. The first document she handed me was my grandmother's will. I'd never seen it before. Maya, your grandmother left you Harris Creative Solutions in its entirety. The business, the client contracts, the bank accounts, everything. I read through the will, my hands shaking. According to this document, I'd inherited a functioning design business worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I don't understand, I said. I would have known about this. Someone would have told me. Rachel pulled out a folder of correspondence. Maya, look at these. The folder contained copies of letters Rachel had sent to my address over the years. Letters about business decisions, contract renewals, financial reports. Letters I'd never seen. I sent these to your house, Rachel said. But I kept getting responses from Marcus saying you weren't interested in being involved. She showed me printed emails. In one from 2 years ago, Rachel had written, Maya needs to approve the Henderson Group contract renewal. It's a significant account. Marcus had replied, Maya is dealing with some personal issues right now and has asked me to handle all business communication. She trusts my judgment on these matters. Please proceed with whatever you think is best. I had never been dealing with personal issues. I had never asked Marcus to handle business communication. And I had certainly never authorized him to make decisions about contracts I didn't know existed. Rachel, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, how much money are we talking about? She pulled out a bank statement. Maya, Harris Creative Solutions generated $127,000 in revenue last year. After expenses and taxes, there's currently about $280,000 in the business account. The coffee shop seemed to spin around me. Almost $300,000? And that's just what's accumulated over the past few years. Maya, some of that money should have been distributed to you annually as the owner. Where has it been going? Rachel's expression was grim. That's what we need to figure out. Technically, as the business owner, you should have been receiving regular distributions. But according to the correspondence I have, Marcus told me you preferred to reinvest everything back into the business. I thought about our constant money stress, Marcus's complaints about my hobby, not bringing in enough income, his control over our finances. Rachel, I think Marcus has been stealing from me. Over the next few days, I carefully started gathering information while pretending nothing had changed. The first thing I did was start recording our conversations about money. Virginia is a one-party consent state, which I'd looked up online, so I could legally record Marcus without his knowledge. Maya, you need to start taking your design work more seriously, Marcus said one evening while I was feeding Emma. We need more income, and your little projects aren't cutting it. I hit record on my phone app. You're right. Marcus, can you help me understand how much I actually made last year? So I know what I need to improve on. Why do you need specific numbers? I just want to set realistic goals. Like, did I make $10,000? $20,000? He looked uncomfortable. Maya, you don't need to worry about exact figures. I handle the finances so you can focus on the creative work. But I should know roughly how much I'm contributing to our household, right? You contribute enough to cover your personal expenses. That's what matters. How much is that exactly? His face was getting red. Maya, why are you asking so many questions about money all of a sudden? I'm not asking a lot of questions. I just want to know how much money I made from my own work. Your work brings in some money, but it's not significant compared to my salary. That's why I manage our finances, because I understand the big picture. Perfect. I had him on record claiming my work wasn't financially significant, while I now knew my business had generated over $127,000 the previous year. But I needed more evidence. I needed to understand exactly how he'd been accessing money that should have been mine. That weekend, while Marcus was at his parents' house, I went through his home office more thoroughly. In a locked file cabinet, the key was hidden in his desk drawer. I found copies of documents I'd never seen before. Bank statements for accounts in my name that I'd never opened. Signed contracts for work I'd done, but with payment amounts different from what Marcus had told me. And most damning of all, copies of emails between Marcus and various clients, with Marcus presenting himself as my business manager. In one email, a client had written, "We're very happy with Maya's work on the logo design. Please let her know we'd like to discuss a full rebranding package." Marcus had replied, "Maya appreciates the feedback. I handle all her business development, so please direct future communications to me. I'll discuss the rebranding package with her and get back to you with our proposal." That client was the Henderson Group, the same account Rachel had mentioned. The same account that had generated thousands of dollars I'd never seen. I photographed everything with my phone, then carefully put it all back exactly as I'd found it. By the end of that week, I had a clear picture of what Marcus had been doing. He'd been intercepting communications about my inheritance, presenting himself as my business representative to my aunt and to clients, and redirecting income that legally belonged to me. But I needed professional help to figure out how to handle this legally. I called Rachel. "I need the name of a good attorney," I said. "Someone who handles fraud cases. I know this is getting intense, and trust me, it's about to get even more satisfying. Stories like this take incredible courage to share, and I want to bring you more of them. If you're invested in seeing how Maya gets her revenge, hitting that subscribe button, like, and share tells me you want more content like this. Plus, you'll never miss the ending of these wild stories. And please, drop a comment below. What would you do in Maya's situation?" I read every single comment. Rachel connected me with Tom Richardson, a business attorney who had worked with my grandmother years ago. When I called his office and explained the situation, he agreed to see me immediately. "Mrs. Harris," Tom said when I arrived at his office with Emma in her carrier. Rachel filled me in on some of the background. "This is a very serious situation." I showed him the documents I'd photographed, the recorded conversations, and the correspondence Rachel had shared. Tom reviewed everything carefully, his expression growing more concerned as he read. "Maya, what your husband has been doing constitutes several crimes. Identity theft, fraud, embezzlement. This isn't a civil matter. This is criminal. What should I do?" "Well, you have a few options. You could file criminal charges immediately. Or, you could give him an opportunity to make this right voluntarily." "What do you mean?" "Sometimes in cases like this, the perpetrator will cooperate if they understand the seriousness of their situation. It might be worth confronting him with the evidence and seeing how he responds." I thought about it. "Tom, if I confront him, what should I be prepared for?" "Denial first. Then probably anger. Then bargaining." "Maya, I want you to understand, if your husband has been living off stolen money for years, having that exposed is going to be devastating to him personally and professionally." "Good," I said, surprising myself with the coldness in my voice. Tom looked at me carefully. "Maya, I need to ask, what outcome are you hoping for here?" I looked down at Emma sleeping peacefully in her carrier. "I want him to face consequences for what he's done. I want my money back. And I want to make sure he can never do this to anyone else. That's going to mean divorce, probably criminal charges, and complete financial separation." "I know. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Marcus leaving me alone in labor. About him calling my work worthless while stealing the income from it. About him making me feel like a burden while I was actually supporting him. I'm prepared. I decided to handle this strategically. Rather than ambush Marcus at home, I suggested we meet with a financial advisor to plan for Emma's future. "That's actually a great idea," Marcus said when I brought it up. "We should start thinking about college savings, life insurance, all that stuff." What Marcus didn't know was that the financial advisor was actually Tom Richardson, and the planning meeting was actually a confrontation. "I found someone who comes highly recommended," I said. "His name is Tom Richardson. He specializes in helping families organize their finances." "Perfect. When can we meet?" "How about Thursday afternoon?" He said he could fit us in at 2 p.m. Marcus was excited about the meeting all week. He even mentioned it to his parents. Maya's finally taking our financial future seriously, I heard him tell Caroline on the phone. We're meeting with a financial planner to organize everything properly. Thursday afternoon arrived. I had prepared for this moment for weeks, gathering evidence, planning my approach, steeling myself for what was about to happen. When we arrived at Tom's office, Marcus was in a great mood. Maya, this is such a smart idea, he said as we walked in. I'm proud of you for thinking ahead like this. Tom greeted us professionally. Mr. and Mrs. Harris, please have a seat. I understand you'd like to discuss organizing your family's finances. Exactly, Marcus said, settling into his chair. We want to make sure we're planning properly for our daughter's future. Excellent. Well, before we talk about planning, I'd like to understand your current financial situation. Maya, can you walk me through your income sources? I played my part perfectly. Well, I do some freelance design work from home. Nothing major. And how much does that bring in annually? Marcus handles all the business side of things, I said. Marcus, what did I make last year? Marcus looked confident. Maya's design work brings in maybe $12,000 to $15,000 a year. It's more of a hobby than a career, really. Tom nodded thoughtfully. I see. And Marcus, what's your annual income? I'm in marketing. I make about $55,000 a year. So your household income is roughly $70,000 annually? That's right, Marcus said. Which is why we need to be smart about planning for the future. Tom opened a file on his desk. That's interesting, because I have some documents here that suggest a different financial picture. Marcus looked curious. What kind of documents? Well, Maya, it appears you own a business called Harris Creative Solutions. Were you aware of that? The look of confusion that crossed Marcus's face was almost comical. That's not possible, he said. Maya doesn't own a business. She's just a freelancer. Tom pulled out the business registration documents. According to these state records, Maya has been the sole owner of Harris Creative Solutions since 2018. Marcus looked at me, then back at Tom. There must be some mistake. No mistake. Maya, your business generated $127,000 in revenue last year. The color drained from Marcus's face. That's impossible. Actually, it's very well documented. Tom pulled out bank statements. Harris Creative Solutions has been depositing substantial payments from clients for years. Marcus was staring at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. I don't understand. Maya makes maybe $15,000 a year. According to these records, Maya's business made $127,000 last year. Marcus, you said you handle Maya's business affairs. I help with some of the administrative stuff, including managing her income. Marcus was starting to sweat. I help Maya with financial management because she doesn't understand business. Tom looked at him steadily. The interesting thing is, someone has been accessing Maya's business accounts and transferring money to personal accounts. Maya, were you aware of these transfers? No, I said truthfully. I've never seen these accounts before. Tom turned back to Marcus. Marcus, can you explain how money from Maya's business account has been regularly transferred to accounts in your name? The room went very quiet. I could see Marcus's mind racing, trying to figure out how to explain this. I was managing the money for Maya. She asked me to handle the business side. Without her knowledge of how much money was involved, she knew I was handling finances. Tom pulled out more documents. Marcus, I have email correspondence where you represented yourself as Maya's business manager to clients and to her family members. Did Maya authorize you to act on her behalf? Marcus looked at me desperately. Maya, tell him. Tell him you knew about our arrangement. I looked at him calmly. Marcus, I didn't know I owned a business. I didn't know these accounts existed. And I certainly didn't authorize you to represent me to clients. That's not, you have to have known. Tom interrupted. Marcus, I also have documentation showing that Maya's aunt, who serves as trustee for her grandmother's estate, has been trying to contact Maya directly about business matters for years. You repeatedly told her that Maya wasn't interested in being involved. Marcus's face went from pale to red. I was protecting Maya from stress. By intercepting communications and making business decisions without her knowledge, I was helping her. Marcus, Tom said, his voice getting stern, what you're describing constitutes identity theft and embezzlement. These are serious felonies. Marcus completely fell apart. Now wait a minute, he said, his voice getting higher. This is all a misunderstanding. Maya and I are married. Married couples share finances. I've been managing this money for our family's benefit. By lying to Maya about how much money she was making, I wasn't lying. I was simplifying things for her. And the boat you purchased with money from her business account? Marcus went very still. How do you know about the boat? Because I have copies of all the transactions, Marcus. The boat, the golf equipment, the cryptocurrency investments that lost $30,000. All purchased with money from Maya's business. I watched my husband realize that he'd been caught completely. Maya, he said, turning to me with panic in his voice, you have to understand. I was investing our money. I was trying to build wealth for our family. Our money, I said quietly. Marcus, name $1 you contributed to the business account you were spending from. He couldn't, of course, because there wasn't one. Maya, please. We can work this out. I made some mistakes, but we can fix this. Some mistakes. I stood up, lifting Emma's carrier. Marcus, you stole over $100,000 from me while making me believe I was financially dependent on you. I didn't steal anything. I'm your husband. My husband left me alone in labor to go to a birthday party. That's not. Maya, don't do this. Tom cleared his throat. Marcus, I should inform you that Maya has several options here. She can file criminal charges, or she can give you an opportunity to make restitution voluntarily. Marcus looked between Tom and me desperately. What does that mean? It means you return every penny you took, you relinquish any access to Maya's business, and you cooperate with divorce proceedings. Divorce? Marcus's voice cracked. Or, Tom continued, Maya files criminal charges and you face prosecution for fraud and embezzlement. Marcus slumped in his chair, finally understanding that his world was about to collapse. This is insane, he whispered. Maya, you can't destroy our family over this. I'm not destroying our family, Marcus. You destroyed it the day you decided to steal from me. If you're shocked by this confrontation, you're definitely part of our community. Subscribe to join others who appreciate these incredible real-life stories, and let me know in the comments what you would have done in this situation. Hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to see what real justice looks like. The ending will absolutely blow your mind. Marcus chose restitution over criminal prosecution, but it wasn't easy. Within a week, Tom had filed papers to freeze all accounts Marcus had been accessing. By the end of the month, Marcus had been served with divorce papers and a detailed accounting of everything he needed to repay. The repayment process was brutal for him. The boat had to be sold immediately, at a loss, because he'd bought it at the height of the season and was now selling during the off-season. The golf equipment, the expensive electronics, even his watch collection, everything had to go. But the most devastating blow was professional. You see, Marcus worked for a mid-sized marketing firm called Davidson and Associates. What he didn't know was that Davidson and Associates had been one of Harris Creative Solutions' biggest clients for years. They'd been paying my business substantial amounts for design work that Marcus had been taking credit for internally. When Tom contacted Davidson and Associates to inform them that their primary design contractor had been embezzled from by one of their own employees, the response was swift. Marcus was fired immediately. Not just fired, terminated for cause, which meant no severance package, no unemployment benefits, and a permanent mark on his employment record. But it got worse for him. Word spread quickly through the local business community. The marketing world in our mid-sized city is smaller than you'd think, and everyone talks to everyone. The story of Marcus Harris, the marketing guy who embezzled from his own wife's business, became a cautionary tale that circulated for months. His parents took it about as well as you'd expect. Maya, Caroline said when she called me, "You're destroying our son's life over a misunderstanding." Mrs. Harris, Marcus stole over $100,000 from me while lying to my face about it. That money belonged to the family. No, that money belonged to me. It was my inheritance, generated by my work, and Marcus had no right to it. But you're married. Everything should be shared. Sharing means honesty and joint decisions. What Marcus did was theft. The conversation ended with Caroline threatening to sue me for alienation of affection, which Tom assured me had no legal merit. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly straightforward, mainly because the evidence of Marcus's fraud was overwhelming. Marcus tried to claim he deserved half of our assets, but Tom pointed out that there were no marital assets. Everything Marcus had been living on belonged to my business, which I'd owned before the marriage. In fact, Marcus ended up owing me money. Between the embezzled funds, the fraudulent purchases, and legal fees, the final settlement required Marcus to pay me over $150,000 in restitution. Since he'd lost his job and had no assets left, the court ordered wage garnishment on any future employment. Basically, Marcus would be paying me back for years to come. The custody arrangement was even more satisfying. Given Marcus's history of emotional abuse and financial manipulation, the court awarded me full physical custody of Emma. Marcus got supervised visitation every other weekend, and those visits would continue to be supervised until he completed anger management and financial responsibility courses. Meanwhile, I was finally able to take control of my real business. Working with Rachel, I discovered that Harris Creative Solutions was even more successful than I'd initially understood. My grandmother had built relationships with dozens of local businesses, and many of them had been waiting for years to work directly with me instead of going through Marcus's management. Within 6 months of taking over, I'd doubled the business's revenue. Turns out, when clients can actually communicate directly with their designer instead of going through a controlling middleman, projects move faster and results are better. I hired 2 part-time designers to help with the workload and a bookkeeper to manage the finances properly. For the first time in years, I felt like I was running a real business instead of just playing around with design. But the most satisfying part of this whole story happened about a year after the divorce was finalized. Marcus had finally found a new job at a small marketing agency across town. The pay was terrible compared to his previous position, but it was the only place that would hire him given his reputation. What Marcus didn't know was that his new agency had been struggling to find affordable design services for their clients. So when they put out a request for proposals from local design firms, guess whose business submitted a bid? That's right. Harris Creative Solutions won the contract to provide design services for Marcus's new employer, which meant that Marcus was now working at a company that paid me to do design work. Essentially, I was once again subsidizing Marcus's salary, except this time I knew about it. I was being paid fairly for it, and Marcus had no control over any of it. The first time he realized this was during a team meeting where his boss was reviewing the quarterly budget. "We've been very happy with our partnership with Harris Creative Solutions," his boss announced. "Maya Harris's team has saved us thousands in design costs while delivering excellent work." I wasn't there to see Marcus's face, but his coworker later told me he went completely white and had to excuse himself from the meeting. A few days later, Marcus called me. "Maya," he said, his voice strained, "I just found out you're doing work for my company." "That's right," I said calmly. "Is there a problem?" This is humiliating." "Why?" "You always said I should take my design work more seriously." "Now I am." "But you're essentially my boss again." "No, Marcus. I'm a contractor providing services to your employer. There's a difference." "Maya, please. Can't you find other clients?" "I have plenty of other clients. Your company just happens to pay well and on time." There was a long pause. "This feels like you're punishing me." "Marcus, I'm running a business. If you find it uncomfortable that your former victim is now successful, that sounds like a personal problem. That was 2 years ago. Let me tell you where everyone is now." Marcus is still working at the same small agency, still having his wages garnished to pay me back, still dealing with the professional reputation he destroyed. He's remarried to someone who, according to mutual acquaintances, manages all their finances very carefully. His parents still blame me for their son's troubles, but they've stopped calling. Probably because Tom sent them a cease and desist letter after Caroline tried to show up at my house unannounced. Emma is now 3 years old, and she's the most amazing little girl. She's smart, curious, and confident in a way I never was at her age. She'll grow up knowing that her mother built a successful business, that women can be financially independent, and that she never has to tolerate being undervalued. Harris Creative Solutions now employs 8 people and generates over $400,000 in annual revenue. I own my house outright. I have a robust savings account, and Emma's college fund is already well established. But more than the financial success, I'm proud of what I've built personally. I started a mentorship program for women starting their own businesses. I speak at local colleges about entrepreneurship and financial independence. I've become the person I wish I'd had when I was struggling in my marriage. Sometimes I run into Marcus around town. He always looks away quickly, like he can't bear to make eye contact. And I understand why. Every time he sees me, he's reminded of what he lost. Not just the money or the house or the comfortable life he'd built on stolen success. He lost a woman who would have shared everything with him if he'd just been honest. He lost a daughter who would have adored him if he'd been there when she needed him. He lost a life that could have been extraordinary if he hadn't been so threatened by his wife's potential that he tried to steal it for himself. But you know what? I don't feel sorry for him. Not anymore. Because every morning I wake up in my beautiful home, check my thriving business accounts, and look at my incredible daughter, and I remember what it feels like to be valued for who I really am. Marcus thought he was managing me, controlling me, keeping me small so he could feel important. He had no idea he was actually teaching me how strong I could become. The woman who was abandoned during labor became a successful entrepreneur, a mentor to other women, and living proof that sometimes the people who underestimate us the most are setting us up for the most spectacular comebacks. And Marcus? Marcus became exactly what he deserved to be, a cautionary tale about what happens when you mistake someone's kindness for weakness. The difference is, now everyone knows which one of us was truly worth something all along. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this incredible journey. Stories like these show us the importance of knowing our own worth and standing up for ourselves, and they remind us that sometimes the people who try to diminish us are actually just revealing their own insecurities. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think about your own relationships differently, please subscribe to Revenge with Nick to help me continue bringing these powerful stories to light. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and ring that notification bell because trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. And please, drop a comment below. Maya's story resonates with so many people, and I want to hear your thoughts and your own experiences. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Until next time, remember, never let anyone convince you that you're worth less than you are. You might be sitting on capabilities and strength you don't even know you have yet. Sometimes it takes someone trying to steal from us to show us how much we're actually worth.